Hi everyone, it's Miss Kuso. I just filmed the types of reactions lab and I thought since I'm at school already, I'll go ahead and show you some more examples of single replacement reactions. So you did see one or two in the types of reactions lab, but I wanted to go over more examples now that I'm here at school. So I have from before the hydrochloric acid, the copper 2 chloride solution, and I just made a new solution of aluminum chloride, and I put those solutions into these test tubes, which I'll go into more detail in a little bit. But here on the right, I have three metals. So I have three elements. I have copper, I got magnesium from the previous lab, and aluminum from the previous lab. So here are the reactions that I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you a total of 5. The first two are with hydrochloric acid. So I already put the hydrochloric acid in the first two test tubes. And then the third reaction is with copper 2 chloride. The fourth reaction is with copper 2 chloride. And then the fifth reaction is with aluminum chloride. And I'll go over each reaction with you and kind of go through this activity series of metals and hydrogen list. There's also an activity series of nonmetals, but I don't have any of those elements readily available right now. So we'll just go with the metal examples. So I'm going to pause the video so I can set up my ring stand. And I moved my camera, so hopefully it's a little bit easier to see. I do realize it's at an angle, but this is kind of the best that I can do right now. I'm at S104 all by myself, so this is just kind of how we're going to do this. So the first reaction in test tube number 1, I have hydrochloric acid in solutions already. In test tube number 2, I also have hydrochloric acid in solution already. So I'm going to show you reaction number 1. I want to take solid magnesium, so this magnesium right here, I'm going to put it into the test tube of number 1 and we should see what happens. So if we're looking at the activity series, lithium is the most reactive element within this list. Silver is the least reactive metal in this list. And this list doesn't include all the metals, obviously, because there's probably around 100 of them, but just to give you an idea. So if I'm now looking at the activity series, if I'm looking at the element that's by itself, okay, so the element that's by itself, let me just get that water droplet out of there. Element by itself, that's magnesium. Okay, so I have magnesium by itself, so I have this with an arrow, and I want to compare that to hydrogen. So hydrogen in hydrochloric acid. So I have this part right here in solution. So if magnesium is more reactive, if it's more reactive than hydrogen, then magnesium, in theory, should be able to kick out hydrogen. So there should be a reaction that takes place here. So let's go ahead and see. So I'm going to just take a piece of magnesium, and this hopefully looks familiar because I just filmed this as one of your lab experiments in the types of reactions lab. Right, so if I put the magnesium in there, if you listen closely, you can hear it bubbling. And then maybe I'll even move the camera so you can see. So it is bubbling, it is reacting. So for reaction number 1, there is a reaction. Okay, so in terms of the reaction, yes, there is a reaction. Magnesium was able to kick out hydrogen. Now, as that first reaction is going, let me go over the second reaction with you. So for reaction number 2, what I wanted to show you was copper, or what I want to show you is copper reacts with hydrochloric acid. So I have some copper here. I already have the hydrochloric acid in the test tube, and looking at my activity series, hydrogen still in the solution because that is the HCl. And this time, the metal that's by itself, the single element, is copper. So I have that here. So it almost looks like, if we can make that prediction right now, copper is less reactive than hydrogen. So if it's less reactive than hydrogen, then we would predict that there will be no reaction. So let's see. Let me just grab maybe this copper piece right here. All right, so this copper metal, I'm going to put it in test tube number 2. And it's floating at the top a little bit. It looks like nothing is happening, but just in case, let me just push that down with the stirring rod. And here, I'll move my phone so we can zoom in a little bit closer. Nothing's happening. Okay, so nothing's happening with the second reaction, copper with hydrochloric acid. As if nothing's happening with this type of reaction, then what I would put into my equation here is I would actually write no reaction. So let me pause the video so I can write that. Okay, so reaction number 2 with copper and hydrochloric acid, nothing happened, so I just put down no reaction. Let's move on now to reaction 3 and reaction 4. So in test tube 3, test tube 4, I have copper 2 chloride that we used before in previous labs, also with the flame test labs and the types of reaction lab. And I already showed you reaction number 3 in the types of reactions lab, but let me show you one more time. So with both of these test tubes 3 and 4, I have copper 2 chloride in both. In test tube number 3, I'm going to put a small piece of aluminum. And then in test tube 4, I'm going to put a small piece of magnesium. But before I do that, let's make a prediction. So with aluminum, aluminum is the metal by itself, as you can see here. I have, now this time, I move this little arrow down to point to copper, because copper is the one that's in solution. That's that blue liquid right there. So if I were to make a prediction with reaction number 3 with aluminum in copper 2 chloride, I would predict that yes, there is a reaction because aluminum, the single element as a solid, is more reactive than copper in solution. But let's just try. So I have aluminum from before, and let me just make a little smaller one here, put it in the test tube, and then let me just push that down with the stirring rod to let it mix a little bit. And then as you can see, almost right away, it's turning brown, just like in the other lab, in the types of reactions lab. So you see, it's turning brown. So if it's turning brown, that must mean that a reaction is taking place. All right, so let me put this back here. And let me go straight to reaction number 4. So with reaction number 4, looking at magnesium, magnesium is even more reactive than aluminum. And so aluminum was by itself, it was over here. Magnesium, the next reaction that I want to test, is right above aluminum in this chart. So then we would predict that yes, a reaction will take place. Oh, and let me fill out reaction 3. So yes, a reaction took place for reaction 3. Right, you see something brown here. So with reaction number 4, with magnesium, let me get one more piece of magnesium that we've used before. So this was the lustrous malleable metal, and I'll put it in test tube number 4. And then I'm just going to also mix this a little bit, maybe push this down just a little bit so you can see what may or may not happen. If I'm looking at this, let me move my camera. It's starting to bubble a little bit. And let me change the angle. And you can see also something brown, like a reddish brownish color, is being formed. So yes, there is a reaction. There is something taking place. So I'm going to put a yes for reaction number 4. Okay. And then the last reaction that I wanted to show you was, let's say now I wanted to kind of focus on maybe reaction number 3. So last reaction, reaction number 5, I wanted to mix copper solid with a solution of aluminum chloride. And the reason I wanted to show you this is because it's almost like the opposite of reaction number 3. So I just kind of wrote it over here just so you can focus your eyes on the two metals. Reaction number 3, I had aluminum with copper 2 chloride solution. And yes, there was a reaction right over here. But what happens now if I switch? So let's say I switch places with the copper and the aluminum. So this time copper is the metal by itself, and then aluminum is the one in solution. So reaction number 3, just one more time, I had aluminum as the element in solution with copper, right here, or right here. And yes, there was a reaction right there. And then for reaction number 5, this time, let's switch it where aluminum is now in solution, and then copper is the one that's a solid as an element. Okay, so I'll take this chunk of copper right here. Okay, so I'll take this and I'll put it in test tube number 5. So test tube number 5 has a solution of aluminum chloride and went straight to the bottom. And I forgot to do the prediction, but if copper, the element, is less reactive than aluminum in solution, we would predict that nothing would happen. And let's just zoom in or get a little bit closer. All right, so this is comparing test tube 3 versus test tube 5. All right, the aluminum reacted with the copper 2 chloride for test tube 3, but the copper did not react with the aluminum chloride in test tube 5, which would follow our prediction. Right? So no reaction happened when you end up switching these two metals.